You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I'm guessing you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe taking your fellow teammate to train. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you want to start a revolution, start training Jiu Jitsu. I'd like to welcome Katy Jebson to my podcast. Hi Katy, how are you?
Hiya, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, on the last episode, I spoke with one of your teammates, not a local teammate, but a possible kind of business collaboration, charity collaboration, Mills. Tell me more about what you do, Katy.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, me and Mills are co-creators, and my side of it is that I started the Her Fight Network in August of 2023, potentially with the intention of kind of leveling the playing field and bringing attention to some of the issues that existed within the kind of women's combat sports scene, and seeing what kind of impact I could make through kind of awareness raising, female only events, and promoting female fighters. And it started off very, very small, kind of just a few people, kind of people that I knew or friends of friends that kind of came to events, and it's really kind of snowballed and grown as time's gone on, and that's where kind of Mills came into things as well. And yeah,
Amazing.
very excited to see where it can go.
Amazing. So maybe you can share some of the issues that kind of females face in the kind of, combat sports. Some of the things that you have experienced or know about that you could kind of share.
Yeah, so a lot of the issues that I had noticed or that were personal to me were things that I was thinking about for a while. And then I gradually, the more women I came across, because I kind of accidentally became a bit of a gym hopper, which I'll get into in a second, I started to realize, oh, this is not just a me issue. This is a widespread issue across the scene. So my sort of start in martial arts was very positive. I did Taekwondo for 10 years as a child into like adulthood. So from 10 till I was about 19, 20, right up until COVID hit. And I was very, very fortunate to train at a gym that was family run, very small. My coach still to this day is like a second dad to me. I was very sheltered essentially from what the kind of underbelly that I'm now very unfortunately aware of that surrounds martial arts. So I took the decision when my gym closed in COVID to take up Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and MMA. So I jumped straight into training 6 days a week, just at the gym that was open and local to me.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I loved it. I had a really good time. So much so that when I tried to go back to Taekwondo, the passion just wasn't there. And for a little while, that was really great. And then I started to see things or notice things. But again, I was only kind of 17, 18 at the time. And those things were would start off as comments or jokes from men in the gym that were just inherently misogynistic or creepy.
Yeah.
I started to notice that. And it was strange because it was actually a female owned gym. But it was like 99% men.
Yeah.
And I started to see that go unchecked, and that behavior was proliferated by coaches. So I thought, okay, maybe this is just how it is. Like it's gritty. You kind of just have to get on with it.
Yeah.
And I'd find that there was kind of two types of men in a gym, which was the ones that, or maybe three types. We'll give them their due. There were some good ones as well, but outside of that, because we are talking about the issues, you either have the guys that don't take you seriously because you're a woman and will either just refuse to train or spar with you altogether, which is pretty patronizing, or those whose egos are so big that, even in striking, obviously I'm not going to name where because that's not the point of this, but I got knocked out twice as a 17-year-old by two men, and they were over 85 kilos just in Muay Thai sparring and MMA sparring, actually, I think it was. So they have those kind of guys that can't take that hit to their ego. And then you have the ones that will just hit on you, make creepy comments in the changing rooms or in group chats. And
Yeah.
for a good year, I
Yeah.
just thought it was normal. And I thought, okay, this is kind of like part of the test. And I still see that mentality embodied sometimes. It's almost seen as kind of
Yeah.
empowering as a woman to be
Yeah.
able to go through that, which I think is kind of a catch-22, because it's
Yeah.
certainly difficult, but you shouldn't have to, and you wouldn't stand for that in a workplace. But that led to me kind of trialing out different gyms, coming across kind of starting to build a community of women without even realizing it, because I tried different gyms, saw similar issues, maybe not to the same scale, but started
Yeah.
having more and more conversations with girls and women from all different backgrounds, and we all shared these same experiences. It was like
Yeah.
universal across the board, and it was really alarming
Yeah.
that actually there wasn't a woman I could find that, or very rarely was there a woman I could find that hadn't experienced that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
I,
that
I
was
just, it sounds really hard, and I just want to hold space for you sharing so honestly your experience, because if there are any listeners that kind of resonate or feel that way about their situation, please reach out and kind of speak to
yeah,
some of your friends, connect with other females in that space that can listen to you openly and honestly, and kind of be there to support you. And it sounds like you've turned things around, you've had those experiences, you've learnt from them, and now you're kind of life boundaries, and you're able to kind of move on and provide something that is a safe environment for young women, because we are seeing more and more young women come into martial arts, particularly Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and maybe your experience with Muay Thai as well, and MMA. And, we want more and more women to join us. That's the point of both of our missions. And I think
yeah,
that's really important to kind of hold. One of the things I want to go back to, I'm a parent. Now,
mm,
my first experience of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was maybe a year, nearly two ago, and only by a friend inviting us, me and my children, to start training. But at school, Taekwondo is the only thing that's really offered in
mm.
schools. What would you say is the benefit for young people getting involved in that? If we've got any parents listening, is that a good thing for young children at school to get involved with as a starter for martial arts?
Absolutely, and it will always hold a like place in my heart, even though it's not what I'm passionate about now. It's definitely a great segue into martial arts,
Mm,
and there's a few reasons for that. Number one is that cardio-wise, it's amazing. In terms of discipline, it's really good. I was always more
yeah,
on the sparring side of things, which is called kairugi in Korean. I was never really that into the pumse, which is the pattern side of things, just because I liked the adrenaline of fighting. That's what I was
yeah,
there for, really, and my club enabled me to do that. Um, but I know a lot of parents. I know my mum was absolutely terrified of me getting hurt, and when my dad was like, "Oh, I've
yeah.
signed her up to taekwondo because dance didn't stick for me, horse riding didn't stick for me," and my mum was like, "She's way too clumsy for gymnastics." Her
Oh,
biggest fear was like she's going to come back, bloodied and bruised. But you're quite
yeah,
protected in Taekwondo. You wear full body armor, head
yeah,
guards, shin pads, arm, everything. You're very much padded
yeah,
up, and it's very
yeah,
technical, very points based. It's not. I know a lot of parents have concerns with martial arts
mm,
encouraging violence, but I've
yeah,
definitely witnessed, especially with any children, but especially children particularly with special educational needs, I've had so much first. I've witnessed that firsthand of how
yeah,
beneficial it can be for that focus and to have that kind of outlet in a really healthy
yeah.
way. Um, I definitely would encourage it. It's a good segue. Um, yeah, and also what I shouldn't undermine is the technical side of things. Like obviously now I
Okay.
do Muay Thai, and I've had to adapt my style of stand up a lot for Muay Thai,
Mm.
but I will still you know, throw out a little spinning back kick or a little axe kick here and there. I did in my recent
Oh,
fight, and they land, they score, they work. They're a good crowd pleaser. You can kind of
nice.
transition from Taekwondo to being quite an exciting Muay Thai fighter, and people have.
Okay. The only experience of martial arts I have, sadly, because I started my martial arts career in my kind of mid-40s, is playing Tekken and Tekken 2 on the whichever console it was when I was a kid, which was a very long time ago. And some of those
No,
kind
I'm
of
not a
back kicks
gamer,
and
but
spinny things.
I'm not a gamer, but I have played Street Fighter in a couple of arcades, and I'm very good at it. That's what I will say
There
for
we
someone that
go.
doesn't
Good,
game.
good. Yes, I won't speak very much for my SSX tricky. I swear I could snowboard at all those half pipes and do all those tricks. I've never stepped foot or a ski on any ice or snow. So anyway, martial arts. I love that because it's inspiring parents to, take that step. If you haven't encourage your children into martial arts, it sounds like a really good thing. I think from my experience, I would be encouraging Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but certainly it's ease of access. If these things are being
Yeah.
offered in schools, then it's a good thing. But as a parent, I had the fear. It's like, I don't know what Taekwondo is. Nobody really explains it. Nobody has that kind of open conversation. You just have to be
Mm.
brave enough to step foot inside the door of an after school club that runs it, and that's as
And
far as it goes.
there is a lot of variance between Taekwondo club to Taekwondo club, that in terms of the teaching standard and the focus. Little shout
Yeah,
out though, if you do, it is an Olympic sport, so it has a national governing body. Let me try that again. It has a national governing body. So if you go on the British
yeah,
Taekwondo website, they will
yeah.
actually like list clubs that they recommend, which is good, which is what my dad did,
Good.
and I ended up in a good one. So
Fantastic. I'd love to hear more about your experience through the martial arts, because you mentioned Taekwondo being an Olympic sport. And whilst this is very much a kind of martial arts, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I'd love to hear how you feel and have seen Taekwondo change now it's an Olympic sport.
yeah, so it's, I think as long as I've done Taekwondo, it's been an Olympic sport, but it become, I don't know, I'm not clued up on my dates, but when you first start, when I first started, the technology was very different that they use. So
Yeah,
kind of C class and B class fights are done, they're scored by a real referee in terms of like, there's, I think it was like 4 points. They change the rules all the time, but like
yeah,
it was like 4 points for a spinning head kick, 2 points for a body kick, that kind of thing. Punches don't really score. You can't
yeah,
punch the face. But it was scored by a person with eyes, two people with eyes actually,
yeah,
and it was done like that, which is great. And then when um, I think it was the 2012 Olympics, I think was the first time they used it, but they brought in this electronic scoring system, where basically there's electronic sensors in your foot pads and on the body pad and on the head guard,
yeah,
which they work by magnets. And in an ideal world, great idea. Taekwondo is so fast paced that stuff is missed.
yeah.
If it worked, it would be a great solution. The problem is, it's now 2024, and from the people I still talk to, it's not got any better. So,
Mm,
but there's seen, I don't know. My theory is maybe there's a lot of money in this, but it doesn't seem effective, and so many people have left the sport because
yeah,
I even at really high level, I was at British Championships where, you can hear the kicks scoring on the body pad, head guards are flying off, and nothing's registering, and the referees don't have
yeah,
any authority to overrule
yeah,
it. So it became a game, and all these silly kind of kicks that aren't really kicks, but you can manage to, get your foot up behind someone's head.
yeah.
It became much more
Yes.
a game than a combat sport.
Cool. So you mentioned your involvement with British Open, is that correct? Or the
The British Championships was that,
British
or
Championships, that's it.
yeah.
So how many fights have you done as a junior?
Ooh. So Taekwondo, I've had over 100 fights. I
Wow.
presume I have 83 medals. So by that logic,
No
I'm
way.
like, well, I I do. So by that logic, I'm like, well, I didn't medal every time, so I've rounded that number up to a must be over 100 because there's plenty of
Yeah,
times I came away
no, that's
empty-handed
good.
as well. So
That's
yeah,
good.
I
And
think I was
is your
British champion
aspiration?
twice.
That's amazing. So we're speaking. I'm sharing the airspace now with the British champion. I love it when I have
From like
these
2016,
amazing.
but sure.
It's fine. Look, it's a lifelong experience. You know, when you progress through your decades, I was going to say years, but decades, you'll still count that as an achievement in your life. So it's amazing. Now, do you
Thank you.
have the same desire and competition spirit for Muay Thai, MMA, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? Are you in the competition space with those martial arts as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Muay Thai has been my main focus recently, partly because I injured my shoulder in January. Um, and it's one thing rehabbing it striking, and a whole nother
Yeah.
thing rehabbing it with people actively trying to twist my arms out of their sockets. But
Okay.
I said that I had my first N class fight in Muay Thai on Muay Thai Grand Prix last week.
Yeah.
Um, so I was just getting that fight camp out the way before I come back to Jiu Jitsu. I've competed like 3 or 4 times in Jiu Jitsu and I love it. Um, haven't graded up yet, but my aim now is I want to get, well, I say get my blue belt. I train in a no-gi only gym, but we still do it
Yeah.
tokily.
Good. So
I'd
you're
love
a
to get
you're a
that.
you're a four strike white belt at the moment. So we're on a level, but you're way ahead of me on medals.
I mean, probably not in jiu-jitsu. I've only got a couple, but yeah.
Oh, amazing.
But I think for me with jiu-jitsu, because I've never really been that bothered about belts, and I know that sounds like a very
Yeah.
cliche thing to say, but I I have a black belt in Taekwondo. I just want to enjoy jiu-jitsu and get good, and when I'm ready, I'll be ready. That's kind of the way I see it.
Good.
I
I
I
love
just want to
that.
be technical. That it's a lot of fun for
Good.
me. It's my like that's jiu-jitsu is my relaxing one. I I feel like to me jiu-jitsu is what yoga is to like normal people.
Okay. Okay, Katie, you're on a different level. I'm going to shut you down there.
I know I've got serious issues that I'm like, oh yeah,
That's fine.
jiu-jitsu
It's
is
all
so
good.
chill. I'm having so much fun getting armbarred.
Okay, yeah, buy all the blue belts. Anyway,
Yeah,
this is the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. Go and check out the latest video clips over on jiu.jitsu.lu on Instagram. And as you're listening or watching on your favourite podcast platform, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Now, today I am talking with Katy Jebson, founder of Her Fight Network. Katy, I'd love to hear a bit more about what you're doing with Her Fight Network and any other projects that I know you have coming up.
sure, yeah. So it's kind of a three-prong approach. So the event side has always been a very core element of it. So that serves to function itself. It's community building, but it's also giving
Yeah.
women the space to train with other women and enhance their skills together. So we've been running sparring days in collaboration with Fearless Nakmoy or China Bayersky. Shout out. We do a collaborative event just to bring in more people. But they've become really successful. So our last one sold out 40 tickets in 48 hours. We're doing those
Wow.
monthly, and the aim is to make those bigger and better. So we tour different gyms around London,
Yeah.
um, and we're going to book a bigger space next time so we can have even more girls, which would be great. So it's
Amazing.
it's just an opportunity. That's for Muay Thai. Um,
And is it mostly London-based female fighters that join, or are you kind of expanding your network and you're seeing people coming in from, or women coming in from outside of London?
We do get people coming outside of London. We've had a couple come from Kent and Surrey. We had a couple of girls come down from Bristol at one point, which was amazing. That was actually to the first BJJ Open mat that we ran. A couple of girls came down from Bristol. We would love
Amazing.
to expand into other parts of the UK. We do have plans to do that. I can't say exactly what yet because it's not all confirmed, but we've got plans to do some jiu-jitsu stuff in Northern Ireland. That's all I can give away for now.
Oh, amazing.
And we are up for moving around where the demand is. So really,
Yeah,
we really try and set up a two-way communication. Our DMs are always open to whether you're a gym and you want to host us, for whether that be a jiu-jitsu event or a Muay Thai event or even an MMA
yeah,
event. We're open to working with gyms across the country because we're starting to get quite a few messages now that are like, bring this outside of London, and
good.
where the demand is, we want to go. So yeah, for sure.
Nice. Can I ask you what the experience of joining an open mat? I'm assuming at the weekend. I have only joined kind of open mats where I've been to the gym before and I know people. But as
Mm,
females, sometimes we have a bit of a fear and we don't know what to expect, especially launching ourselves into an all female space. Um, what can women expect when they come to your open mats?
yeah, well, this kind of goes across whether it's a BJJ open mat or an open sparring for Muay Thai. The vibe is the same. One thing that I'm really, really, don't know what the right word is to use here, but really kind of
Passionate
passionate about
about?
maintaining. Oh, there we go. Passionate about maintaining is to not have kind of this feel of it being like a cliquey space or like,
Yeah,
an exclusive club. It's very much up all ages, all experience are welcome. We tend to do something to kind of get everybody comfortable. So we do introductions, we keep it very light, very kind of fun. We always do a little debrief at the end where people kind of share, if they want to, they can share their motivations to come in, what they wanted to work on, what they've left
cool.
um, having worked on, kind of do a bit of kind of
Yeah,
mindfulness, because obviously when you have a lot of competitive females in the room, there is always the risk that it gets too competitive and it
yeah,
stops being productive. But we keep a very keen eye out, and we've
good,
never really had any issues. I've never had to
good.
intervene and be like, okay, this is getting out of hand. It's never happened. It's always been such a genuinely though, but I think that's because of the way that we, I don't want to use the term market, but essentially we have set this up as a space to be welcoming and to grow together, and that's very
Yeah,
clear from the moment that you walk in the door. And I think
yeah,
people feel that energy and they feel calm and they feel
yeah,
relaxed, so those emotions don't necessarily come out. And
yeah.
like I say, our youngest, one of our youngest girls that comes to our sparring days is 12, and she comes by herself and feels completely comfortable in that space, which I think is a testament to
Yeah.
the community that has allowed us to create that space and keep growing it.
Amazing, amazing. Now, what whilst you can't talk necessarily about other events that you might be planning excitingly around the whole of the United Kingdom and maybe elsewhere, I know your co creator Mills is in Greece, and I spoke to her on the last episode. Um, what are you working on together?
Yeah, so there is one event we can talk about. I got confirmation today that I can now speak about it. I say confirmation like it's not confirmation from myself, but everything is confirmed and underway. More details will be following very imminently. Probably will be out by the time this podcast is out. We will be hosting a BJJ Interclub, ladies only in terms of the competitors, but it will be a lot of most of our events are completely closed door, ladies only, to allow that safe
Yeah,
space. We obviously can still maintain that vibe, but in order for practicality in terms of coaches and being able to have spectators, that will be a slightly different formatted event. But we will
yeah,
have female competitors. I say competitors, it's an interclub, obviously it's friendly. It's a really good opportunity for a lot of women that maybe have competed a few times or haven't competed at all yet
yeah,
to come and experience something in a sort of competitive environment, but without the pressure and
yeah,
without that kind of fear. It'll be a very welcoming space. There's no winner, but you still get that comp experience and just give yourself that little push to either get into competing or get back into competing. Because I know even myself,
yeah,
it sometimes it only takes a bad comp experience to be like, oh,
Yeah.
am I good enough? Should I be here? That was me in
Yeah.
my last comp for sure.
Oh
I
gosh.
Yeah, like the previous two jiu-jitsu competitions I'd done, I was like, oh yeah, I can do jiu-jitsu. And then my last one, I was like, I just got sat on and pinned in side control for like 5 minutes, like 4 times, and I was like,
Oh
right.
no.
So yeah, we will be sharing more details about that, but the more women we can get there and match up,
Yeah.
the better.
Amazing. I just want to kind of reflect on your events, because when I was chatting with Mills, it made so much sense to go to one of your kind of interclub events, because it's a competition without being a competition, without the necessarily the build up and the
Yeah,
size and the scale and the scheduling. I remember feeling quite anxious about my match. I was lucky enough to take myself off to Barcelona for my first match in May. Um,
lovely.
but it was, I didn't know what time my fight was until Friday afternoon, and my
Hmm.
fight was Sunday late, like kind of early evening. But not knowing those specific details, it sounds like your events take away that stress of not knowing beforehand, because you're in a kind of time framed kind of environment, and you're being supported. It's not as if you're going for a medal, although I do really think you should distribute those 83 taekwondo medals somewhere. What are you going to do with them
They
when you
need a home, a
move?
moving house. What am I going to do with them?
Anyway, no, please keep your 83 medals. I'd love to see them displayed at some point, maybe on an Instagram story. I think you should share it. But it
Sure.
sounds like your events are really kind of wholeheartedly supportive. I've kind of followed some of the Enyo events, and actually those competitors or those individuals are going just for one match. Um,
Mm,
and it seems like that's a really good idea. But as white belts and, eventually blue belts, we're not necessarily privy to that kind of level of, kind of showwomanship in those
right,
big
yeah.
shows. But actually what you offer is that safe space environment, certainly the white belts and blue belts. And yes, I may well be attending one of your interclub
I
events very
do hope
soon.
so. But yeah, you put it very well. It's the same experience in terms of
Mm,
technically that you might have at a competition with half, if none of the pressure.
yeah,
It's very laid back,
yeah,
very chill, it's
yeah,
supportive. If you have a match that doesn't quite go to plan, there's always the option to be like, okay, let's see if we can get you another one. And
yeah,
it's about experience and it's about growing and testing
yeah.
your techniques against people that you haven't rolled with before
Mm,
without that kind of anxiety around competing, which
yeah.
doesn't go. That's what I will say. It doesn't
Okay.
go. I still
with
hate the
all
build
of
up to a
your
fight.
with all of your experience, and I know some kind of top level competitors still have that anxiety and fear, and maybe that's part of it. I'd love you to tell me about Her Fight Network Fund, because I've seen a couple of bits about that today, and Mills mentioned it on the last episode.
Yeah, so this is something that we've been really, really excited to announce. We announced it earlier today, which I appreciate won't be today by the time this episode goes out. But this has been a long term aim for me and for Mills. Ultimately, one of the core principles of what we do is to be able to support more women in their goals with fighting, because the odds really are stacked against us. I've gone into some of the reasons,
Yeah,
but even just exposure on shows, the cost of fighting, like
yeah,
trying to shoehorn our way into a space that we haven't always been welcomed in, but obviously times are changing. It's not quite there yet. So
yeah,
the awareness raising is great, the events are great, but ultimately we want to be able to financially support the female fighters that need it most. Like, I know fighting's expensive. I'm sure you know
yeah.
fighting's expensive, especially with two kids. Trying to do that as a professional or semi-pro fighter,
Mm,
balancing work, a family, other financial commitments. A lot of the time, I
yes.
saw a post about it today. The finance is the barrier.
Yeah.
So we put our heads together and was like, okay, what can we do about this? So we've taken the decision that all of our profits from our interclubs, from our open mats, from any potential seminars that we may do, all of the profit that we take will go into the Her Fight Network fund. And then at the end of the year, we do our end of year awards, where we will award female athletes across, there'll be 3 categories, so MMA, BJJ, and Muay Thai. We will award a female fighter with that financial package essentially for them to use however they need it to support their fighting career.
Yeah.
We're not going to do what, I used to have sponsors when I did Taekwondo. I'm not going to do what they do, which is send me the receipts for everything you've done, because me and Mills spoke about this, and okay, you could stipulate this has to be spent on a specific competition, this has to be spent on a specific piece of kit. But ultimately, if you have the choice between paying your electricity bill and paying your gym fees, that's not our decision to say, oh, well, sorry, you can't pay your electricity bill, and then that has a knock-on effect. We're going to do it on a nomination basis, so the community will be involved wholeheartedly in voting for the people that need it most. And that's the aim, to be able to actually bolster that and hopefully grow over the years to make that fund bigger and bigger and more effective, and support as many women in the biggest way that we can.
I think it's really important. Whilst money isn't everything, we, like you've alluded to, we both know how much it costs to compete, to train, to do all of those other things. There are so many foundational costs to training, and even more to competing, and kind of logistical issues. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I cannot wait to hear more about that journey, and just to see, both the directory and the network and the fund grow over time. And I would love to have you back on. We'll have to get you and Mills together.
For sure, yes.
We'll have to do some collaboration. How can people get hold of you and find out about these initiatives and events you've got going on?
Yes, please do get hold of us. So the Her Fight Network account is at Her Fight Network on Instagram. So all of our event content is posted there, all of our stuff related to the fund, and the athletes that we kind of support. Again, awareness raising, all of that can be found there.
Yep.
The other really important account to please follow is the Her Fight directory, which is a lot of what Mills talked about in her episode. That's primarily focused on the matchup side of things. So you can enter your details there and we can match you up for fights.
Amazing. All of those details will be in the show notes, so do check out the notes below. Thank you very much, Katy, for joining me. I know you're kind of fresh from the training mats today, and I'm sure you'll be maybe not training 6 days a week, but I'm sure if we all had the opportunity, we would absolutely be training as many days as we possibly could.
I am training 6 days a week. I am training 6 days a week, but thank you for having me so much.
I'm envious of the 6 days. I've got to match up to medals, match up to training hours. Oh my goodness me. Katy, you're setting a very high bar. Thank you.
I'm very sorry.
No, celebrate. Let's, we've all got, if you can see it and someone's demonstrating it already, you can do it. We can do anything.
I've started from the bottom again when I came into Muay Thai Jiu Jitsu, so my Taekwondo career is behind me. I'm right down there with you. Don't you worry.
We're all growing and progressing. It's all good. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, Katy.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for telling your friends about this show, and as soon as the episode ends, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu podcast.